Hello, everybody. Welcome to Webinar Wednesday. My name is Martin Lovers. I'm the Chief Trend Watcher of Supply Chain Media. You may also know me as the Editor-in-Chief of Supply Chain Movement. That's a quarterly magazine, but also a website and a newsletter. And you might also know me as the architect of the SCM IT Super Map, where we have positioned all kind of vendors. All right, so we have a great webinar coming up, a live webinar, 60 minutes. We talk about Industry 4.0 and blockchain and IoT, what's the status, what's happening, and how to apply it. So happy to have a great turn up again about this great topic. So it's me to the left. You see me here, and next to me is Christina Reich. Welcome. You are from MHP.
Exactly. Hello, everybody.
So you're also a professor in quantitative
Methods,
measures.
right?
Yeah, and you are in Munich at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Located in Munich.
All right. So welcome. So you will talk about a report you have done for already several years, and we'll talk about it later. Next to Christina is Milou Klooster, CEO and founder of RTI Blockchain. Hi, Milou.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
So she's located near Amsterdam. I won't explain how the village is called. And you have a background from Oracle and also at Booking.com. So you're from the digital area, I would say. Yeah.
Yes.
And last but not least, Tamir Basanyav, CEO and founder of Obertech. You have a Mongolian background, but Obertech is located in Tallinn, Estonia, and now you are located in Berlin.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Hello from the Europe, Berlin.
Yes.
Hi.
So we have an international panel today. So first, some things. This webinar will be recorded, and the PDF will be made available afterwards within 48 hours. The audience is on mute, but you can all ask questions, and please use the Q&A functionality on the right-hand side. So you can chat, and everybody can see it, but and answer each other's questions. But please use the Q&A functionality so I can track down if these questions are in line of the discussion I will be having with the panel. I will ask these questions immediately. If not, there is a Q&A at the end. So then your answers will be questions will be answered. And next to this Q&A, we have an extra 30 minutes of after talk. So right after this, at 5 o'clock, you could join us in a direct conversation. We will have 3 tables for MHP, RTA Blockchain, and Obertech, so you can directly get in conversation with the keynote speakers of this afternoon. So feel free to join us afterwards if you have some more questions. All right. As of this moment, I will put off my camera so you can enlarge your screen. So on the upper right side, you can enlarge your screen. And you have a better view of the presentations. All right. So, Tamir, you can put off your camera maybe for bandwidth reasons, and people can enlarge their screens. So, Christina, you have done a survey. Maybe you can explain first a bit more about MHP.
Exactly. So hello, everyone. I'm Christina, and I'm a senior consultant at MHP. We are a management and IT consultancy, and as industry experts, especially for mobility and manufacturing, it's important that we understand the changing challenges and needs of our customers. For this reason, we've been conducting our Industry 4.0 barometer since 2018.
All right. So maybe we can explain a bit more about the barometer, because that's the major part of your presentation, I would say.
Exactly. The Industry 4.0 barometer is basically an international study to determine the cross-industry benchmark of Industry 4.0 activities. The latest issue, I think we just realized it about 6 weeks ago, is a survey based on 899 participants. We also conducted interviews with outstanding experts and insightful success stories from UK, US, China, and German-speaking countries as Austria, Germany, and Switzerland. Yep. And as you can see here, every year we look at topics like technology, IT integration, drivers and obstacles, and strategy and goals. But also this year, we had focus topics, and the focus topics this year were shop floor automation and sustainable operations.
Yeah, and you have done this study already since 2018, so you have a
Right.
quite a good view of the developments in the last few years.
Exactly. Actually, seeing if there is a real development or like increase in the use of Industry 4.0 technology, or well, actually not.
Yeah. All right. Maybe we can go to the general findings, and then we dig deeper.
Exactly. So when we have a look at the general findings, it shows that the return on investments is still the most relevant factor for companies in deciding to use Industry 4.0 technology. Therefore, investments in holistic automation solutions are often not considered. Therefore, only standalone solutions are implemented in most cases, which, however, are far from being able to exploit the full benefits of a holistic and integrated solution. In addition, as like everyone knows, everyone is facing a shortage of skilled workers. This is a major problem as the new solutions require certain qualifications and also must be implemented.
Yeah.
And at least companies seem to have learned from the current crisis and are now able to increase supply chain transparency through successful implementation of Industry 4.0 technologies like RFID, Bluetooth, wireless. And this makes it possible, for example, to track where the products are or required resources and where are they located, also like including temperature and all necessary information. But it also makes it possible to trace where resources come from and by whom they were produced throughout the entire supply chain. And I will later also talk about Catena X as an example. Then this makes it possible to determine the total, for example, like a carbon footprint of an entire vehicle individually, depending on the selected configuration of the vehicle. And furthermore, a significant improvement can be seen in the area also like of cybersecurity. Due to the increasing attacks on cyber infrastructure, companies are increasingly dealing with the issues of cybersecurity.
I was just wondering regarding cybersecurity. You know, I hear a lot about hacks and that kind of stuff, and companies are getting more and more, I would say, scared about the possibility using IoT across the supply chain, making yourself vulnerable for cyber attacks.
Yeah. But actually, mostly these are like not the most relevant factors because it's much more. Also, the biggest security leaks are actually the employees, like opening like wrong emails and stuff.
Yeah.
So mostly the problem are not the cloud solutions, but like the individual employee.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right, and we'll talk about later about blockchain and other applications from other panel members. Maybe Tamir, what do you see? Do you come across this kind of notion about cybersecurity and being scared of data leaks?
Yeah, I think I'm totally agree with the Christina. Is that the major issue and the red flags on the users themselves? I think so they don't have a not educated well about cybersecurity, about the breach. In terms of the blockchain, it's technology itself has a rarely issue with this one, but most of the time is because of the users themselves. And based on our use case, what we saw is that when introducing our solutions on the market is more like there's more information needs to be revealed rather than to be hidden. So of course there is an information need to be hidden from the companies for know-how, etc. But when you reveal more information to your partners and the consumers, your business value is more increased and more leads likely to come to. So I would say there's need for more information revealed rather than to be hidden on the market.
Okay, thanks a lot. So, Christina, maybe you can talk a bit more about the first topic specialized in your report is shop floor automation.
Exactly. The first focus topic this was on shop floor automation. And there has been a slight increase in the use of autonomous machines, as well as in the companies like the capabilities for data analysis regarding production processes with partially and fully automated decisions. Like you can see like the picture on the left, like over the last 5 years, there has been like a slight increase. But still, currently, however, only about 50% of the processes are fully automated. And in addition, companies overestimate their level of automation and digitalization due to individual solutions, which, as already mentioned, are far from exploiting the full potential of a fully integrated Industry 4.0 solutions.
Yeah. And another thing, what is quite remarkable about the the AGVs,
Yeah.
automatic guided vehicles. Now you have got autonomous mobile robots. You see these small robots driving around in warehouses, especially,
Yeah.
and that is a kind of a revolution, because in the
Yeah.
old days you have to have tracks in your warehouse. Now it's all flexible, so that makes it way more easier to add some more AMRs to your warehouse or to your factory if needed.
Exactly, and like I will also talk about it later. You can use these employees that were driving like the small cars before for like
Yeah.
more important things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, more value add. So
Exactly.
there's more to gain. One thing is about what I found remarkable in this slide. Artificial intelligence, the use 39%. I think there's a bit of lack of understanding what AI can do. There's a lot
Yeah.
of talking about ChatGPT lately in the last month, but I think there's still a need to make clear how AI can help in a warehousing and in a shop floor environment.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're still far from like totally automated processes.
Yeah, and maybe that's also the lack of understanding how to use ChatGPT in a
Yeah.
WMS or TMS or in an MES environment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and the next topic is sustainability.
Exactly. The next topic is sustainability. It for sure also plays a major role in the area of production. Overall, there is still lack of sustainability. Sustainability measures are not implemented consistently and holistically by companies. Still, economic efficiency takes precedence. It's like they're still more important. And it seems that the high initial investments slow down the fundamental changes towards sustainable production. And therefore, many companies do not get beyond superficial sustainability initiatives.
Yeah. If you look at it, the last few years, there has been a lot of focus on scope 1 and scope 2. So the measurements, and carbon measurements, and the energy savings within your own factory, and the procured energy. That's the focus, and
Yeah.
that's on your own premises, in your own factory and warehouses. So companies have done a lot.
Yeah.
But there's way more to gain outside your scope 3, your upstream and downstream sustainability.
Absolutely. Yeah. Also with regard to externalities, like when you're producing like a car or something, who's actually responsible for all the externalities afterwards.
Yeah. The use of a product is a lot of carbon footprint.
Yeah.
I find it remarkable that as a whole, in the middle of the slide, 39% of the respondents think they are better or much better than the competitor. Isn't that high?
Yeah, but we guess that it's because of the single solutions. I think many companies have like individual solutions, and these solutions may also be already like fully automated. But they are not orchestrated, so that they're not put together. They're like single process, like parts of the process.
Yep.
They are like they're really good in. And therefore, it feels as if they are like ahead of the competitors. But overall, like with regard to integrated process, actually, they're not.
If you look at the last part of the key findings, the hurdles are too big. And then again, we discussed this earlier before we started this. As of next year, all the publicly traded companies in Europe, in the EU, they have to provide on a quarterly basis their progress on the carbon footprint and all their measures. And before you can progress, you have to measure.
Yeah.
So a lot of companies are now busy of implementing some sort of carbon measurement tool to get a better grasp on the whole sustainability part.
Yeah. But there's still a way to go.
Yeah, but then again, companies have to act because 2024 we will be here before you know it. So companies have to move, and all these publicly traded companies will also request this kind of data from their suppliers. So in the end, all the SMEs, the small and medium-sized companies, will have to follow. That's my take. To wrap up your part of your survey, you have created some success stories. So that's good. Let's talk about these kind of 4 success stories. What has happened at this company?
Exactly. Like here you can see 4 success stories in which we were able to achieve an improvement for our customer through the successful implementation of Industry 4.0 technologies. So first have a look at like Faurecia. Faurecia is an automotive supplier facing challenges of high degree of individualization and complexity in material supply to the assembly line.
Mm-hmm.
By implementing a dynamic supermarket served by AGVs and connected to a scanning glove for commissioning, controlled by the MHP fleet executor, it was possible to redeploy the labor of 2 employees who would normally operate like the forklifters elsewhere through more efficient and reliable workflows. And the return on investment became already evident after less than 24 months.
That's cool. That's great. Yeah. To get it right, what do you mean with how do you call it? A dynamic supermarket. It is not a supermarket, I think, but
No, not really. Yeah.
What is it?
Well, it's actually like where like all the parts and resources are stored, and then they have to get they have to bring it to the assembly line.
Yep.
And before there were 2 workers and doing this all day, just getting like the parts to the production line, and now that's done autonomously.
So it's like like in an order picking, assembling all the parts needed for manufacturing.
Exactly. And the parts can be like stored somewhere in this like so-called supermarket.
Mm-hmm.
It can be like a chaotic system. It still works.
All right. Next, in logistics, you have an example of Fiege.
Exactly. There are in the logistic industry, and in this industry, there has been a significant increase in customer requirements in terms of product range, depth, and also diversity, product availability, and delivery times.
Mm-hmm.
And based on big data and IoT technology, we simulated processes and inventories to identify potentials for improvement, like early detection of bottlenecks and process inconsistencies.
So that's basically kind of digital twin, but a digital twin of the warehouse.
Exactly, yeah, and how it actually like the logistic processes.
Yeah. And in manufacturing, that's another environment.
Yeah, it's also pretty interesting. Flex Factory is like a joint venture. It was a startup from MHP, Munich Re, and Porsche. And here, an innovative manufacturing process was developed with increased demand, which requires fast scaling and capital-intensive production. So they were able to produce different products on the same production line, and the up and down scaling, depending on whatever is needed, like depending on the demand, can be like changed really fast. And among other things, the use of the digital twin of the product could save 12% of the production costs.
Yeah. And that's quite important because especially in automotive, changeover times are long, and they rather have to have, they want to have a long series. But when you can change it quickly, you're way more flexible. Hence, Flex Factory, with that kind of things. Okay. And the final part about the data ecosystem, that's more broader, I would think.
Exactly, yeah. Last but not least, like we were able to support Volkswagen in the implementation of the Catena X data ecosystem, and the Catena X ecosystem supports the reduction of the effort for emission determination, and here the focus was on the secure exchange and high quality of the data.
But now we can have, I think that some models within the Volkswagen family, you can even track the whole bill of material where it's coming from, and you know all the suppliers upstream from tier 1 to 3 up to the final assembly of your product, of your Volkswagen or other model.
Exactly, and it's not like an average data you're using. You can like actually calculate it for every single car in the end. So like depending on whatever you put in your car, you actually know the carbon footprint of this individual vehicle.
Yeah. So there was a question for the audience, and I found it in the chat. So do ask questions, but I prefer to use the Q&A functionality. It's easier to track by me. There was a question for the audience. What are the metrics for sustainability, and how do you measure them? Maybe you can tell us something about it, Christina.
Yeah, I think that's like still a major point for all the companies to actually measure sustainability. I mean, we just asked the respondents and how they actually think they are performing with regard to the competitors. And what we also asked was if there are any sustainability like KPIs somewhere included in strategy and goals, and if there are also if it's how's it to say is there somewhere in the management board somebody responsible for it?
Yeah. What you see now, I had an interview with the chief supply chain officer of Diageo, Ewan Andrew, 2 months ago, and he's also the chief sustainability officer. So he has
Exactly.
a dual role in the board. So you will see that more and more sustainability officers are also responsible for supply chain or manufacturing operations. It goes hands in hand, because 80% of your footprint within a company lays within the supply chain, either with well, the supply side, manufacturing, distribution, or in the downstream side. So that's one thing.
Exactly. Either a person or a unit or whatever. Like, is there really is there sustainability somewhere visible in the company and also responsible for it?
And basically, getting back to the question, you have your scope 1 and 2 and 3. So 1 is your energy consumption within your company. Scope 2 is your bought energy consumption. Scope 3 is the carbon footprint downstream or upstream from your suppliers and your customers. Yeah. So with shampoo, a lot of water users is downstream, obviously. So that's the measures. And now you have even scope 4. That's more like energy savings. So when you have glass in your windows, I talked to Velux, Danish company. They produce some kind of windows where you can absorb energy and take away energy and also carbon emission, and that's scope 4. So that's energy savings. That's scope 4. So there are clear measurement and KPIs, and as of next year, public company, you have to prove what they're doing right now and how they improve. All right. So thank you for now, Christina, and I will ask you later on some questions about the other two pitches about blockchain. But Perfect. Getting to the blockchain itself. So I tracked down. We do a lot of service ourselves, but also partners of Gartner are using kind of tools to survey the market. And this is the hype cycle of supply chain strategy, and this one is July 2017. And maybe you've seen it before, probably. Going from left to right, first you see an innovation, and it goes up, and then they get to the peak, and the peak of inflated expectation. There we talk about a hype, and then next, there will be some disappointments, and we go into the trough of disillusionment. And after a year, or a few years, people see the light, and you will engage on the slope of enlightenment, and companies know how to use this new technology. And at the end, on the right-hand side, you get the plateau of productivity. So basically, that's how you have to read it, from left to right. I don't go through all the innovations, but we focus on blockchain. Blockchain 2017, it was early days. It was an early innovation. Don't confuse blockchain with the cryptocurrency and the bitcoins. Yeah, there's some kind of there's the technology behind it. But all in all, blockchain in supply chain started out in 2017 as an innovation trigger. Moving up, 2019, 2 years later, it almost reached the top of the cycle, the hype. In 2020, only due to Corona, probably it was still on the same level. So that's in 2020. And this is the latest hype cycle of supply chain strategy by Gartner, August 2022. And you will see that it has surpassed the hype cycle, but it's moving into what we call the trough of disillusionment, so disappointment. But I tend to disagree, because we have tracked down a lot of supply chain startups and scale-ups in the last 5 years. We have done that since 2018. And we tracked down a lot of supply chain startups and scale-ups. And some of them are in the blockchain area. And I already see some very productive applications of blockchain in the port of Antwerp to share in a totally safe way the passwords to enter a compound in the harbor, in the port of Antwerp. So it's already productive. So and you have to read this like these dots are averages. So some are in the early phase, and there are some applications already productive. So as you see here, it's probably too small to read it, but you can download it afterwards, and maybe you've read it already and have seen it. So we are producing every year a maturity matrix of European supply chain startups. We've done it since 2018, and we have defined 10 categories. From left to right is supplier management, and totally on the right side is your last mile environment. And in between, you have your sustainability, your ocean and air freight forwarding, inventory optimization, tracking and tracing, blockchain in the middle. We'll get there. And demand planning, transport visibility, road freight matching, and last mile. So we have done a lot, and we have analyzed a lot of supply chain startups and scale-ups. And we also have a contest every year, again in May. And one of the finalists of the scale-up contest is RTI Blockchain. So Milou, you are CEO and founder of RTI Blockchain. Maybe you could start, to tell us, how did you start to get in all this?
Yes, okay. Then I go back to the time where I was working for our family-owned business as fifth generation actually, and they sell fish towards different kind of supermarkets and food service companies. They are a producer, but they have suppliers as well. And in this world, where you deliver as a food producer towards supermarkets and food service companies, these kind of customers decide on which type of crate and on which type of pallet you can deliver your goods.
Yep.
Yes, and most of the time you can't purchase them yourself, but you need to rent them from a rental company, also called poolers.
Yeah.
Yes, and beside these assets, you have a lot of different other reusable transport items to manage. And the registration of this is a hassle, and then I thought I need to solve this.
Yeah. So okay. So tell me what you have done. Maybe you can first start. What is the problem? What kind of loss do we are talking about?
Yeah, well, we talk about for the larger companies in the supply chain about at least 4 million euros on a yearly basis what is lost.
Mm.
And this is due to the fact that the silo systems, and as Christina calls them, the individual solutions of today, they don't work to solve the hassle which comes together with the registration of the RTI movements.
Mm. All right. So we talk about pallets and crates and that kind of stuff. So maybe you can explain what are the main pain points in the industry, in the supply chain.
Yeah, so I go back again how it works nowadays, and then come to the pain points. So if we take it to the food industry, and you as a producer have to manage different kind of assets, and the ones you have to rent from different owners, you are required to register in their own web portals. But there are no standard rules and regulations in this world, so you have to set these business processes and agreements per asset type in combination with each supplier and customers you have. So ideally, you register them in your own system, in your own ERP, warehouse management system, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not doable because it is not a standard option for it. So each organization chooses for a custom-made solution. That could rather be an expensive one. So you have a custom-made ERP system, especially for your RTIs. That's how we call them. But the most custom-made solution we see nowadays is still Excel. And then companies are using Excel sheets per supplier, per customer, per asset type, what is coming in, what is going out. And each employee in the organization controls his own Excel sheets. So
Okay.
this is crazy, and this leads to the lack of accurate information, for example, because no real-time data is shared, because we always share data later on while the physical flow has already taken place.
And there's also a lot of paperwork still.
There is still a lot of paperwork, which causes operational inefficiency. I still come to companies and I see that, for example, the transporting companies who are always in between in the supply chain, it is not an exception that they have to scan 300 paper packaging slips a day, and that is for the flow with goods going to the customer, but also the return flow of empty RTIs, which needs to be back, which is always written on the paper packaging slip where the goods is on the delivery actually.
Yeah. So yeah, I heard a lot, especially in the Netherlands, a lot of carriers, transport company are, talking about, we want more electric trucks. But I say, stop with this electric truck. Yeah, you need them in the near future, but first start to get rid of all your paperwork. First digitalize your internal operation before you go into electric trucks and those other fancy stuff. Yeah, we need it in the
Yes,
future. Yeah.
exactly. And when you digitize, you can also save on your people. So as Christina said as well, you can use them for much important work than scanning paper packaging slips and then uh, doing this double bookkeeping in Excel and all the other systems you have, while this information is already known, at least by yourself beforehand and by your supply chain partners. And if you share that information directly, you work with accurate information in real time and you can inform almost every supply chain party you would like to inform, and also the third parties like the owners.
Yeah. And the third aspect, you call it the financial loss. Maybe you can tell a bit more about that.
Yes, so the financial losses, it is because you lose either assets you are renting or you lose your own assets. For example, if you have the Euro pallets, the EPAL pallets, it is not a pool owner, so you have to set this agreement with your customers, even if you take them back directly, like sharing, or if you going to send them an invoice, but the price differs a lot of times. But you
Hmm.
also have financial losses because the items are standing somewhere empty, and if no one shares that data with the owner of the assets, they are not being used. So there's an overproduction of RTIs that the beginning of the chain can deliver the goods, while at the end of the chain they are standing there empty that could be reused much easier and earlier.
And now, what I read, I think it was last week. There was a lot of, it's not a pallet, a lot of empty containers in China in the port. So, containers are also returnable transport items on a larger scale. So
Mhm.
basically, I think that pallets, containers, and more RTIs, that could also be tracked probably.
Yes, and containers could also be seen as an RTI indeed.
Mhm.
And some of the more expensive assets, they are tracked already by IoT, but it is too expensive for the cheaper ones. So some of them are foreseen in a barcode or RFID, but still everyone is then using their own individual solutions. So they create their own IoT devices or their own RFID tag. And the next party in the chain has already different systems to use. So
Yeah.
that's where we come in and we connect with all of them. So the party who needs to manage more RTIs can use one system for all different solutions.
So, is there a lack of trust for all this? You mentioned here a lack of data confidentiality.
Yes, because often people and organizations forget or don't see the value of the RTIs, and every asset has its own value, often combined with a deposit fee. So it contains a lot of money as well. And that's why there's a lack of trust because there are also a lot of frauds and stolen assets in the supply chain. But also, if you have your own individual solutions and your own web portals and you are renting your assets, there are some people who can do something with your balance at the background in their own databases.
Yeah.
And I have experienced that myself, and that's rather strange because you talk really about a lot of money.
So, give me an example. Tell me what you have experienced.
Yeah, so I was renting assets from a specific company, and you are required to register in their own web portals where you have ship it to. But
Yep.
you can only register in their web portals by the contracted parties. So the most biggest retailers you can register to, but the smaller ones are not the contracted. So you have to do that in your Excel or your own system. But when you register it in the systems and you would like to pick up your load carriers at the closest supermarket nearby your production location, so you don't have to ride an empty truck all over the country,
Hmm.
you need to have a balance over there. And that's the balance you actually delivered over there.
Yeah.
But sometimes your balance is empty, and then you give a call. Can I please pick up nearby, because otherwise, I have to send an empty truck. And then it's okay. I will do something with your balance at the background. Keep it from the one supermarket towards the other supermarket, and you can pick it up there.
So it is possible in the
It
background.
is possible, and I don't even see it. And for me, it's very hard to check the current outstanding balances on the reports of the asset owners. And if they can change something at the background, it is my money on that moment, and it's my responsibility. So that is not right.
No. Okay. So what is your solution? So why RTI blockchain?
So why RTA Blockchain? Because the current systems are not designed to create an ecosystem, and we believe that if we unify in taking our responsibilities in the way how we manage RTIs worldwide, we will be able to reduce waste in the chain and decrease the life cycle of RTIs and reuse them more. And in order to do that, everyone should be able to registrate. So you control your own data, you can registrate your own assets, all of them, and directly share them with your supply chain parties, and work together within the same data and inform the third parties like the owners on the movements you would like to share with them. So it is interoperable with every system, even if you like to register in your own ERP system as the basis over there. And we spoke before this webinar about the data lake. You can send your data towards the data lake, and we can connect it to what's there as well to get our data and to connect with your supply chain parties, as well as the different IoT or smart devices. But then still you have organizations in the supply chain who aren't able to register it in their own systems. So they could use our front end, which is user friendly and mostly used at the beginning at the farmer, dus at the beginning of the chain at the farmer, for example, or at the end at the stores where the assets are being sent back again. It is cloud-based. The data is always available and secured, but it's also visible and transparent throughout the whole chain if you like to. So you can inform each other much easier. Fully digitized, so you don't have to scan all these paper packaging slips anymore and be reliable on a lot of paperwork and manpower. And you are always in control, even if you hire a third service party who can do your asset management, you can still be in control yourself.
So your company is called RTI Blockchain. So to what extent do you use a blockchain? Is it needed? And sometimes people are scared about blockchain because they confuse it with cryptocurrency. So can you explain?
Yes, it's often referred to cryptocurrency, but we believe it is needed because the data is secured, but also there's a lot of contracts laying behind if you rent the assets, and also the deposit fee. And we have heard a lot of demand that the organization would like to get rid of the deposit fee, but then you need to have an agreement on the outstanding balance, and you need to go back to standard solutions. So that's what we do. And if you have an agreement on the balances, you don't need to use the deposit fee, but you can use an invoice later when you are sure that the asset is not coming back anymore.
So basically in the blockchain you have what we call smart contracts. So if you transfer, say, a pallet to another party with the scanning of your application, the smart contract will be fulfilled, and then the ownership will be transferred, and also the financial balance will be managed.
Exactly, and we have a use case for this one at, for example, Van Gelder Groente en Fruit in the Netherlands, and they deliver in their own crates, foreseen by their own barcodes, towards their customers, which are restaurants and hotels, and they use our application, and they scan all the barcodes while loading it into the truck. Then the driver comes at the restaurant, for example, then it scans all the crates which he is leaving behind at the restaurant. So the restaurant can see which crates are there on which numbers. And then he takes some empty ones as well to return them towards Van Gelder. Those will be scanned as well. So for the restaurant, you can always see which assets you have in store and which assets you have given back without having the discussions all the time. So it's like a complete digital proof of delivery. But this is possible because they have their own crates foreseen with their own barcodes, and then it is much easier to implement. But we also have customers who have more than 100 types of assets, and some of them aren't foreseen of a unique identifier. So then you always have to work with an asset type and an amount.
All right. So these are well, the conclusion. So this is the summary. So this is the user interface to watch what's happening in the supply chain with your pallets and other RTIs.
Yes, exactly. And it is not necessary that you use our front end. So if you register the RTIs in your own system, we can connect or get your data via Excel files or another solution. But when you use our front end, you have one overview of all the RTIs, and you can manage them in a digital way rather than on this heavy manual paper-based way of working we use nowadays.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Lars. Milou. Christina, you talked in your survey about IoT. Now you see this kind of application into the supply chain. What do you think of this kind of solution?
I think it's a really great solution. And Milou, how is it? How does it actually work? To me, it seems that there are like lots of parties that they have to work together.
Yes, that's right. And we always compare it with a faxing machine, because if you are the first one having a faxing machine, you can send a fax to no one because no one in your chain is using it. But you can use our system as well for your own internal organization, and you can start from there. And if you are in control, then you can share the data towards the next party, and you can invite them via the platform, or you can send out reports so they already get used to this way of working.
So I think what you mentioned, Christina. There's a lot of silos, and on certain
Right.
environments. By rolling it out with what Blue is explaining internally, you connect it first internally, and you get rid of your islands internally with IoT kind of environment, and then move on into the supply chain.
Yes, and we also do, we start small. So it is also possible that you choose to work with one or three parties in your supply chain and start from there. And most often, or yeah, we haven't seen any other, sadly enough, you already have discussions with your supply chain parties, and both parties are always a loser in this case, because you are both losing money and are having discussions you don't want to have.
No.
So we always see that people want to work together, and it always works.
What I see, and then we get to Tamir with Obertech with their solution. Maybe Christina, I think there is a first mover advantage. If you start with your application and it gets accepted, then you have a bigger chance that the rest of, well, internally, but also the rest of your chain will embrace it. So you don't have to be worried about the next one. So I think there is a first
Absolutely.
mover advantage.
It's really good. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. All right, Tamir, maybe you can explain your approach. Similar but slightly different. So maybe you can talk us through what you see as the challenge and your solution.
Yeah, of course. So I want to get back to my point that I would talk in the beginning of the talk, that we are living in a world that is heading to the market itself demanding more information from us to be revealed rather than us to be hidden. Because the main reason is that our life is so integrated to each other. So, for example, the main example is myself. I have Mongolian background. I have a company in Poland, Estonia, but now I'm in Berlin, right? So it's so normal nowadays that you can work with someone in the different continent and different country, but you can collaborate each other through internet. So since you are not sitting together each other, so how you can build trust amongst those different integration with your different collaborators? So the only thing is that revealing more data and creating visibility about your business, about yourself, and then it will create more trust. So it's not only for small businesses, but it's also a bigger issue for in terms of regulators, like sustainability, how you identify. So you want to get more information from that business to analyze whether it's sustainable or not. So I would say that from the head into the future, there will be more demand of the visibility in the supply chain than never before. So that's the future that we are heading to. So in that case, if we are not disconnected in the supply chain, how we can create the proper visibility? So there's different types of information and Excel sheet in one company, another company have a different types of paperwork, and another company have a ERP system, etc. So how you can create the proper visibility that validated by each actors in the supply chain. And I would say it was not like stay like this. I think it will be so different, let's say maybe 5 years, 10 years from now. So there will be normal that each one the actors in supply chain are willing to collaborate each other. So for now, we are saying that there's a 4 major areas that is blocking to connect to each other, the different actors in the supply chain, even though there is initiatives for digitizing the supply chain and the systems in the market itself. So first thing we saw is that one of the major part is the centralized data control. So most of the big systems have centralized control of the data, especially for the small players interact with the bigger players. There is a risk of data manipulation, and creates the mistrust among the different actors. Even the 2 big players had to cooperate each other. There is always risk of data manipulation and mistrust sometimes happens. So this is one of the major reasons that we see. And second thing is that some of the systems on the market is so rigid and complex to be customized into different environment. Like when you have a system at your factory, that's what really works well at your factory. But when it's talk about your suppliers, when it's go into the shipment, or when it's go into the different environment and different edition, so you need to customize, or sometimes you even need to develop it by new systems, by different IT resources. That's also creating a bottleneck in here. The third one is that there's less user incentive models for those systems. Whenever user adds the valuable information or acting on time on the system for verifying each other's information, or there is a valuable information even that is demanded by the customers themselves. So I would say there's less initiatives for addressing the user incentive model for collaborating inside the digitized ecosystem. The last one is that, of course, the very heavy upfront costs requires some of the systems to deploy it on the different environment business, especially for the small and medium companies. It's really hard to maintain. Even though they afford to buy those big systems, it's really hard to maintain. You need to have a different IT resources. So some companies really need to have a separate IT department to maintain. Especially when we talk about the blockchain, it's also expensive technology and also requires your blockchain experts to deploy that. So this is the 3 major bottleneck that we see in the market right now in terms of the disconnected supply chain. Could you move the next
No,
slide?
take it easy. I have some
Yeah,
questions.
yeah.
So the
Yeah.
first part, I think I like that you have visualized this different kind of data streams within the supply chain. It makes
Yeah.
it very clear that we're not there yet, and it visualizes the complexity for one thing.
Yeah.
Another thing is I like your heavy upfront cost, because Christina said in their survey about the industry barometer 4.0 that there are still a lot of challenges regarding the ROIs, and that it resonates
Yeah.
with her findings and also what you're saying. Okay, now maybe you can explain how it looks like when you apply your connected
Yeah.
supply chain.
So our aim is to create the visibility by providing the platform that accessible for different actors in the supply chain, that the 3 major technologies that we are using, blockchain, IoT, and cloud,
Mhm.
to build our platform. And we are attacking these 4 major barriers in the market. First, we want to make it decentralized, the data control using the blockchain network. So I will explain more about in detail about how we can do it. And also we want to make it very simple as a social network apps, like our platform's interface is like a Facebook newsfeed. So it's familiar interface for everyone and can be familiar with the different levels and actors in the supply chain. And we don't focus to fully digitize everything in the company. So we just only focusing on the key information about the supply chain events, about the movement of the product. That's it. So we don't want to move into HR and finance systems. That creates more complex the system itself to be adopted by different actors. The third one is that we are introducing tokenization, the Web3, into the system to reward the users based on the performance and the actions they do in the platform. The last, our model is a SaaS, pay as you go. If you are a small company, you will pay less. If you are a big company, if your usage is high, then you will pay higher. That's it. So that's our solution. So I can explain more in detail in the next slides.
Yeah, yeah. Miluba, you also have a different kind of setup of financing this application, isn't it?
Yeah. So also, basically charged by the usage. So there is no heavy upfront cost. It's
No,
required by the users. Yeah.
it's the same with Milou with the RTI blockchain. We'll get it to her.
Yeah.
But first, maybe you can explain the traditional way and your innovative setup.
Yeah. So traditional way, there is a centralized server, whether it's in-house or whether it's in a cloud. As mostly all the data is stored on that decentralized systems. But in our case, we are providing the permission blockchain, not public blockchain, for the business to collaborate, permission blockchain. So we allow them to own the nodes in the blockchain network. We allow them even to connect their own cloud accounts to our blockchain network, so they can store their relevant data on their own cloud accounts. So imagine that there will be multiple cloud accounts connected to our blockchain network with owning their own nodes in the network. So it has also removed the scary that your information can be leaked to other players in the system.
No. One thing is now what I know from T mining. That is they have supplied the port of Antwerp with the blockchain application to transfer passwords to enter the compound. But it's not a public blockchain. No, that's
Yes.
a private blockchain, and there's a
Yes.
lot of confusion about that. The difference between a
Yeah.
private and a public blockchain. So
Yeah.
public is the cryptocurrency
Yeah.
environment that's a public one, but this one is a private one.
Yeah, so we believe that the private blockchain demand will increase more, and because the public blockchain is only allowing your approved actors to cooperate in your blockchain network. That's it. So it will only circulate among that ecosystem that you built. It's
Yep.
it. So it's not.
Maybe you can explain how it looks like. What is the visualization? What do they actually see in your
Yeah,
environment?
so you can see that the actual interface that is shown in the simple and flexible our slides and the right side. So this is just how it looks on our dashboards. It's very simple. All the information that added by the different actors in the platform will be identical, and what type of information. And also you can see that humidity breach and temperature breaches came from the IoT itself. So everything is combined in one streamlined systematic information flow. And then when you click on each user's profile, you can see what organizations or what users added that information. And also in the system itself, that users themselves can verify each other, whether it's a legit account behind this, or also whenever the information is added, the users themselves verify each other's information on the platforms. It's more like a decentralized onboarding and also decentralized data submission in the platform. So it's also same time very simple to customize. It can work at the farms, it can work at the shipment, it can work at the factory. So it's all for your basic needs of information exchange in the supply chain.
So it's good to see that you have a quite a visual overview of certain milestones within the supply chain, within your transport, from the farm to the shipment to the factory to the end use. So that's one thing, and also the freight forwarder and the logistic manager, the parties involved on the right hand side. So you get
Yeah.
quite a visual overview. But maybe there's also a lot of confusion about how does it work with blockchain. What do you need? How do you scan the data? So how does the data get in?
Yeah, so we saw that it's not important to add everything on the blockchain. So it's not efficient. So once we analyzing the feedback of the customers, it said we need to making sure the proper balance of the blockchain integrated data and the data that is off chain, which is not integrated with the blockchain. That's very important. So the previous dashboard that you see is that we only store the blockchain that is added by the customers for specific events, we call it. So it's all based on event-based information flow in our platform. So every information added will be one event in our platform. So we won't store any heavy data that's from everything that's coming from the IoT. We don't store it. It's just only storing the data that come from the IoT, that whenever there's breach at a certain level of the alert triggering. So let's say temperature breach when, for the what product, that's it. We don't store the history of the IoT data of certain period, etc. And also in terms of integrating the IoT in the platform, so we also provide our own IoT devices for the users themselves. So users doesn't have to deal with the different IoT vendors for our platform. So our IoT can be measured the seal, location, temperature, humidity of the food, which is the most common need, especially in the food industry, for different environments like farm, shipment, factory. They all require this kind of information for them. But also we are open, very open for any trusted IoT solutions on the market. If they already have their own IoT devices or solutions, we are all happy to integrate with API interfaces with those IoTs.
So where do you put this specific IoT device?
Yeah.
On the product or the packaging or a pallet?
Yeah,
Where do
yeah.
you put it?
Yeah, it's up to the customers. We just send the IoT devices for them, and they can just put it wherever they own. So, for example, it can be put on the warehouses, it can be put on the containers when they're shipping. And the one nice thing is that if you put it on a container, you don't have to rely with the shipping company to ask where it's going. Right?
Yeah,
You just
yeah.
get the IoT information from it, and you can put it on the factory level and store shelves whenever you want it. We just send the IoT devices; they can put it whenever they want.
Okay, I have some questions for you and for Malou and also for Christina, but maybe you can the final part, about the tokens. Maybe you can explain how that works.
Yeah, so once we have this streamlined information flow in a very systematic way with addresses, who added this, what information, and who validated and verified in the partner network they built on our platform, then it's very easy to create any tracking information or any story of the product and how it's produced and who transported it and how it's delivered to the customer's hand. And also we saw there's a strong demand of the consumer side about the known ingredients of the product. So it's more like art becoming right now, especially some of the products, especially on the meat industry. It's more like art, how you raise that cattle and how you process all those meats. It depends on that. The taste is different. So it's very strong demand on the market that how the product is produced and how you came up to the consumer's hands. So in our platform, since everyone can add this relevant information, they get just one click and they can create the unique QR code and NFT on public blockchain in Web3 space for their product and directly on the platform. So it can connect to each production batch of the product they produced, or they can connect it with their container shipments. So it's up to the customers how they connect them. And finally, when you have the NFT on a public blockchain that has the relevant information of the product, we can connect the tokenization with the NFT in Web3. So let's say using the tokens, the consumers can stake the tokens relevant with the NFTs, and also we can feed the information, update the NFT, and then whenever let's say there's a goal for your company wants to sell 100,000 of Apple, and then if the goal reached maybe 90,000 of apples sold, then there's a 90% of performance that you have. So same goal you can put on the staking contract, that's tokens is staked, and then users will get 90% of reward of the pool of the staking. So you can have a same mission with your consumers. And the second application is that you can use the tokenization inside the platform. So when you have your users inside the platform, and you can score and rate your users in the platform whenever they do performances in the platform. So you can track everything because you know when the information is submitted, what information, who accepted that, whose information was accepted many parties, and who added information correctly all the time. So based on that results, the users can get levels. So when users get certain levels, they can be rewarded by tokens. So it's more like a KPI, small part of the KPI calculation of performance rewarding of your employees in the platform based on the blockchain. So all can be done by the smart contract. Automatically, rewards will be released to the users in the platform.
So that could even be the chain partners, but also it could
Yes,
be
yes,
the end consumers, the end
yeah,
customers.
yeah. So you can create your own campaign to tokenize reward for anyone in the platform.
Yeah, and the NFT is a non-fungible tokens, but
Yes.
that's another part. But you can get rewards and
Yeah.
by using it. So thank you for this, Tamir. I hope if you have questions from the audience, for free we have an extra few minutes, and afterwards we have an extra 30 minutes to talk to either of the three partners. I will explain later. Milou, I was thinking what kind of device you have? Probably barcodes, but do you also want to have IoT devices for your RTIs to connect to the blockchain?
Yes, sometimes that is being used, but that's mostly used on the more expensive assets. So, for example, we did a pilot with the Prismium Group,
Yep.
Draka, and Technische Unie, which is another Sonnepar, and it was for the least expensive cable drums. And they nowadays they aren't uniquely identified, so you just have an asset type and an amount, but they have a wish that they are being uniquely identified. But an IoT device is too expensive for these specific type of cable drums, whereas IoT devices are being used for the big wooden ones. So it is always a combination regarding prices in mind as well. So most of the time it is a mixture IoT, RFID, and barcodes. But what we also see if assets are supplied with RFID tags, for example,
Mhm.
it is still needed that they are scanned towards the whole supply chain. And it is very hard to get organizations scanning towards the whole chain. So most of the times it is only being scanned by the first producer who is knowing their customers, but the next customer isn't scanning at all. So that's very hard to realize a closed loop.
Yeah. A question from the audience, final one, and then we're gonna wrap up, and then we have an extra 30 minutes in the lounge. Christina, a question. Any solution to bridge between the customer warehouse module and the TMS ERP environments with the help of blockchain and other devices? Do you have seen any use cases?
Well, I think for sure, like when you are transporting resources to the production line, there are also like some resources that are like they are kept in the initial, let's like call them boxes, and these boxes also have to be like sent back to wherever they come from. So I guess this process could also be tracked by the blockchain solution. Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
IoT, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to be inspired about what we have seen as an examples by RTI Blockchain and Tamir there. So I think there are some opportunities there. And we
Yeah,
can talk a whole hour for a data lake to connect it. That makes it life
yeah.
way more easier.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Martijn, the question of Siam, this is exactly what we do. So we are a bridge between the customer's SAP
Mhm.
system and the TMS of yourself. And
Mhm.
then we do it only focusing on RTIs. So this is possible, and we do often get a question if we can do this for products and pricing as well, but that's not our focus yet.
No, and Tamir has a similar thing on a product basis.
Yeah.
Yes. We're out of time, but like I said, right after this, we have an extra 30 minutes, and it looks like this. So Christina, Milou, and Tamir will be in the lounge, the virtual lounge. They have their own table, so go visit them at the table. So they will be there. So, like I said, the PDF will be made available within 48 hours with the links to the maturity matrix on the left hand side. You can see all the startups we have published in Q1 of this year. The report by Christina explained will be also made available through this link. And there's a case study by RTI Blockchain and also by Orbotech with the links to that. And next, if you are in the Netherlands, make sure that you will at our Innovate event. RTI Blockchain will be presenting as one of the 3 finalists of the Scale Up contest. We also have a startup contest, so it will be, I think, the coolest event of supply chain in Europe, with a lot of innovation, a lot of keynotes, and great keynote speakers. So don't miss it if you are in the Benelux or around. As of this, I would like to thank Christina thank you for explaining your survey. Thank you for joining us. And also Milo, thank you for joining us. And I will see you in 2 weeks.
Yes, thank you as well. I'm
Thank
looking
you.
forward to it.
And last but not least, Tamir, thank you for explaining your cool application.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the audience. Thank you for joining. A lot of people have joined. And I hope to see you soon in another webinar at our event or somewhere else. So thanks for now. And maybe I will see you in the lounge. I will be there. And Christina and Milou and Tammy will also be there. Thanks for now and see you later. Bye bye.
Yes, bye bye.
Bye bye.